It's time for the Postmortem Report with your hosts Ronald McGilray and Michael Schotter. Each month, these sultans of speculative fiction take a break from bending reality to ask one burning question. What cool stuff got buried in the social media graveyard while people were busy yelling at each other? Well, there's only one way to find out, so let's dig into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Postmortem Report. I'm your co-host, Michael Schotter.
I'm Ronald McGilvray. Welcome to episode 33, the fun episode.
33 is an excellent number. It's got a lot of jingle to it.
There you go.
So, how have things been going for you?
Well, I've been saving this. Didn't even talk about it during our preamble. I wanted to surprise, well, it's not really much of a surprise, but I just wanted to say, go Canada, go. We won the game last night. We're the winners. Captain Hockey, that's us. 3-2. Boo-hoo-hoo.
Unsurprisingly, one might think.
Oh, who's that? Hello?
Uh-oh.
Oh, hello.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Lo
a
and behold.
visitor. Look who it is. Look who it is.
Did you steal
It's
your
my
neighbor's
Licka
dog
dog.
again?
Look there. Look at that. Who's that?
Oh,
Say hi.
oh, wow.
Hello, everybody. This is Sherlock.
He's very camera friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. He's probably just staring at you going, who's that?
Yeah.
Can you say hi to all our many fans out there?
I bet we're going to get a lot more
Podcast.
fans now that we put a dog in the video.
There you go. We have no shame whatsoever.
No, zero shame.
Well, he wants to go now. So,
Well, hopefully he doesn't go.
yeah,
Yeah, let him go before he goes.
exactly. So say goodbye. Say bye. So if you want to see more of Sherlock, that lovable dog, you should come back on all the other episodes. Don't promise he's going to be here, but we'll go. So you go see. You go see. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for dropping by.
Very nice.
Well, there you go. Always surprises on our show.
I was completely surprised. I had no idea how that was going to go, but it seemed to go pretty well. You seem to have survived that unscathed.
Wasn't sure if he was going to yank down my mic and everything else, but he actually managed to hop over the wires right into my hands. So
excellent.
Such a good dog. Sherlock McGilvray, ladies and gentlemen.
Quality.
Now back to our previously scheduled show.
Indeed.
Go Canada! That's what I was saying.
You really didn't need to repeat that. I think everybody got that the first time.
Oh, no, because right now, Michael doesn't realize it, but this is the point of the show where Michael's going to put up a big Canadian flag and fireworks special effects for Canada's win. Here it goes. This is where it's coming up. Such fun we have. What a hoot.
Good times.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're happy. Glad you're pleased.
It was nerve-wracking.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
It was nerve-wracking. And it was like watching it, and then it went into overtime, and I was just like, this is just too much. I kept looking at my smartwatch, checking my heart rate. And then when they scored, it was freaking out.
And then there was much rejoicing.
Yeah. The thing was, it was such really a nothing tournament. It was just like, it was four best teams. It was a gimmick thing. It was like, not the Olympics. It's only four teams. Supposed to be just like this round robin thing. It's like, whatever. But, you know, someone kind of politicized it. And then it became a whole big anthem and a war cry for the Canadians went out. It was just like everyone driving to go see the thing. There was, I don't know. I guess you didn't probably watch the game.
No, I did not. I did not.
Yeah. At the
Sorry to
end,
disappoint you, but it wasn't as crushing a defeat from my perspective as
yeah,
you might have hoped.
yeah. When everyone left, all the dejected Boston fans left. I was surprised how many Canadians were there for the
Mm,
whole award thing. It looked like the place was still packed. Now, of course, could be camera trickery or whatever, but
mm,
they were singing "Oh Canada" and everything, and I was just like, where did all these
nice.
Canadians come from? How'd they get the seats?
Hmm.
But we've infiltrated already.
Hmm. Oh, I'm sure there were plenty of people who were willing to sell them some seats.
You know? Or maybe there was lots of Americans that were actually rooting for us.
You never know.
There's this big news thing. I can't remember. It was in BC somewhere. Some boat that hadn't been, I guess, going over to wherever, I guess somewhere down the west coast for, I don't know, since COVID or whatever. It was their first arrival. And there was all these Americans were there with signs saying, "Welcome back, A. We love you." Or it was like, "Make us your 11th province," or something like this. And I was like, oh, so I guess tourism's really big wherever that place was. So it must have been hurting without whatever that ferry boat was.
Hmm.
But anyways, so I just thought I'd mention that part because it was kind of an exciting game.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell you were very enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But then on the bad side of things, we've got snow up to our armpits here.
Oh,
We got
mm,
so much snow. It's like over 70 centimeters.
wow.
It is just, it's just unbelievable. When I walk down the street, it's like walking in a tunnel because the sides are like right up on both sides of you. So when you're walking, you just feel like you're walking down a tunnel somewhere and they haven't shaved down.
How's Sherlock handling that?
He, on the other hand, appears to love the snow. He
Mm,
jumps in the snow, he plays in the snow, he doesn't want to come in, he just loves it. So,
yeah.
unlike his parents, he seems to be enjoying the snow.
Well, that's good. Glad it's working out for somebody.
Yeah. There was a couple days though when the wind really picked up because we had the snowstorm in a two-pronged thing. We got about 34 or 35 to 40 centimeters, and then it stopped for a day, and then these winds came, and you can see on the roof of our garage where the winds made all these kind of designs everywhere,
Hmm.
and it just blew more snow after we got the snowblower out and everything.
Mm,
And it was just crazy, crazy winds. He wasn't too keen on that because that brought the temperature down quite a bit. And
hmm.
he would stand out there. We'd put it out the back, and he would just sit there and look and go, "Are you kidding me?" And he'd just sit there,
Didn't
and all
sign
his
up
like
for this.
fluffy fur was blowing, and then he'd come back in.
Hmm.
So yeah, so much snow. At least it's at the end of winter. If this had happened November, December, it would have been very depressing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's towards the end. We're almost in March. I mean, anything can happen in March here, but
Hmm.
we know April's just the next month. So it's
Yep.
a month of dealing with it. That's
Yeah, in the old home stretch for winter. That's nice.
it. I'll be curious to see what Sherlock thinks when he sees grass for the first time
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because he was
Nice.
born in the winter, so he's never really seen warm weather and stuff.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting because with his fur, cold doesn't seem to bother him. We'll see
Hmm.
how the heat is because I
Yeah,
don't really
yeah.
want to have him shaved down, but I imagine he'll be kind of hot.
Hmm. Yeah, because they don't really shed, right? That's one of the reasons
No,
you went with that breed,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, just this kind of wavy, curly hair. So,
Hmm.
and it's thick. So, because you look at him and he looks like he's a big sized dog, but when you touch him and you squeeze a bit, all the hair goes down. You see that he's kind of small still, just a puppy, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hair makes him look much bigger than he is.
Yeah, nice.
So, so yeah, that was one of the things I was going to mention, that we have a new member to the family,
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock. Very happy with him when he's not being a bad dog. So, but he's
Oh,
generally like 99% good. So,
yeah, nice. Yeah.
yeah. Um, what else? Oh, broke 170 reviews on Tales from the Parkland.
Yeah, nice.
That was kind of exciting.
Creeping up on that big two hundo.
Yeah,
That's impressive. Yeah,
we'll
very
see.
nice.
We'll see. Rejuvenated my interest in short stories.
Ah, nice.
We'll see what transpires with that. Oh, the audiobook for The Candy Witch has finally been recorded. It should be out
Mm-hmm.
very soon. So the
Yeah.
actual recording's all been done. I guess whatever the last bit of polishing or production is being done now. I do not
Mm-hmm.
have a date, but I would imagine it's kind of soon.
So do you think or suspect maybe sometime in March?
Oh, I think so.
Because this episode will be beginning of April. So theoretically
Yeah,
should be out.
it should be out
Yeah.
because they just requested a cover. I had to make alterations to the cover, not the look, but to the dimensions and
Mm-hmm.
pixel side. They're like, yeah, that's great, but we need this for that. So I had to contact my cover artist and see if she could get that fixed up for me. So I got
Mm-hmm.
that done, sent that in, and that was the
Nice.
last thing they said that I had to do. So I figured, sounds close.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they do in the back end.
Yeah. Well, if it's not out by the time this gets edited, I will at least put the release date up for people. I'm sure we'll know by then, but keep an eye out
It's
or an
pretty
ear.
exciting. Now you'll be able
Yeah.
to listen to the Candy Witch, but you should buy the
Mm-hmm.
book too, because I have a dog now and I've got to feed him.
Nice. Yeah.
So buy it and listen to it.
That is one really nice thing that I kind of became aware of
Uh-huh.
from doing the audiobooks myself last year is that whole whisper sync thing that Amazon has, where if you have the ebook, you can listen along and it'll highlight as you're reading and sync up your reading experience between the audiobook and the ebook. That's kind of a cool feature.
Huh. Do they do that automatically?
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you're available on both Audible and Kindle,
Yeah.
they will automatically do the whisper sync thing and sync that up. And it's cool
Cool.
too, because like if you say you're listening to an audiobook and you stop and then you go pick up your Kindle and you open that ebook on the Kindle, it'll automatically open the ebook to whatever point you were at when you stopped listening to the audiobook and vice versa. It's kind of neat the way that it works.
Modern technology.
Hmm.
Oot nanny.
Booyah.
Um,
Anyway, you were saying, sorry.
yeah, no issues. And if that wasn't enough, my story Crabheads has now been released in the anthology Where Monsters Hide, and it's
Hmm.
out now. So
Hmm.
people should buy that anthology as well.
Hmm. Nice.
And
Yes.
that way they can read that story over and over again while they're waiting for the audiobook to come out.
So I know you were eagerly awaiting that to be released so you could see the illustrations. Did you get to see the illustration that accompanies your story?
Well, actually, I've seen a smaller version of it because they
Hmm.
sent it to me, but I have not yet received my author's
Your
copy
author
yet.
copy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the full glorious design of it yet.
Yeah, nice.
And maybe I have. Maybe I'm just saving it for the next episode so I have something to talk about. So I can
Oh,
show you, open it up.
oh,
But
nice.
I haven't actually received it, so I'm not saving it for anything. So it will be cool. I'm looking forward to get my hands on it.
Yeah, nice.
Um, oh, as a complete surprise, I don't know if any other people do this, but sometimes I like to Google my name just to see if there's
Nice.
any warrants out for my arrest or anything like that, if I have to go
Yeah.
into hiding. and I found that my story, The Garbage Collectors, has been released as an audio adaptation by Drew Blood's Dark Tales, which is part of the Chilling Tales for Dark Nights podcast.
Oh,
They're the ones
okay.
who actually did Ubiquity.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the same outfit that did Ubiquity. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So I was like, oh. And what was funny was when I looked at it, it's been out for like 4 months.
Hmm.
So
Wow, that was a
I was like,
sleeper. Yeah, I didn't even
I
know about that. Yeah,
I didn't give it, and it's got, I can't even remember. It was like piles of views. And I was like, how did I miss this?
yeah,
But
huh.
so, anyways, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, cool.
They do a good job. So when you're not reading crab heads and you want to get ready and juiced up for the Candy Witch audiobook, you can listen to the Garbage Collectors.
Yeah, nice. A plethora of audio selections.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have Ubiquity already out there because I think we talked about that last show.
Hmm.
Oh, I've been invited to a special March break event for younger readers at my friends at Reread Used Books in Stittsville on March 8th. I'll have copies of James' Journey to Dreamland as well as a few of my other titles for sale. So they're doing sort of a March break thing for younger readers, and they asked if I wanted to get some James Journey to Dreamland, which is funny because I said, sure, I got piles of James
Hmm.
Journey because it doesn't sell as well as my others. So I thought I had, but then I looked, I only had one copy left.
Ah, see.
So apparently I've gotten more requests on it than I had. I really should actually get some kind of book. Considering I do accounting, I think I should have like a ledger or something
You
on
should
my
have a
books to
better
actually
sense
keep,
of this, I would think.
yeah, a
Yeah.
better track of, selling them. Because I knew I'd ordered a batch and I was just like, how the heck did I sell them all? There's just
Yeah.
one. So I had to put an order in so I could get it, but it's supposed to arrive on the 28th or by the 28th. So I'll have it with enough time for the event. But that should be
Nice.
fun. That should be fun.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always cool whenever bookstores do those reading events for kids. I know there's a lot of bookstores that do like story times and stuff like that, where they'll have authors come in and read stuff to kids and all that. I always think stuff like that is really cool.
I've been thinking because I was thinking about the two schools that I went to that are here in the Ottawa area, and I was thinking I should go and like just donate my books, sign them, from a fellow student or
Hmm.
something, and then sign it. But I never get around to it.
See, that's the problem with being an idea guy. You have all these ideas and you don't necessarily act on all of
Put
them.
them into action. Yeah,
Yeah,
I will though, because I was thinking about. I remember last year I was thinking about it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then kind of summer came. I thought, oh well, it's nicer to do it in the summer. Unfortunately, schools closed during the summer, so it's kind of a
yeah.
useless plan. So I thought, well, maybe in the fall. Maybe in the fall
We
I'll
really
do
need
it.
to work on some of the details of these plans.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to plan it better. But yeah, I thought it would be kind of cool to donate my books to, well, the primary one would just be James Journey.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Because,
definitely your kid-friendly option.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say.
but
I don't know that you necessarily want to have a bunch of elementary school kids reading
yeah,
Cutters Deep. That might
yeah,
scar some,
get a lot of bad reviews,
yeah,
threatening letters and
angry
emails.
parents.
Exactly. So, but my high school, if I go back to there and to do it. So,
That's the thing. You got to hook them young, right? Hook them with
yeah,
the nice, friendly kids book, and then they're ready for you by the time they come of age.
exactly. Yeah. And that's really about it. I've been really busy with Sherlock being just sort of a puppy.
Hmm.
He was only 8 weeks old when we got him, and it must have been almost after we shot our last episode
Hmm.
because it's just about a month now, and lots has changed,
Oh yeah,
especially in my lifestyle.
yeah, yeah. for sure. Yeah.
He brings lots of joy and happiness to the family. So,
Nice.
yeah. How about you? What's new and exciting?
Well, let's see.
Oh, that's right. The Americans lost 3-2. Sorry, I
You
couldn't.
know what's really funny about all that? I literally had no idea what you were even talking about. I had no idea that even happened until you said that. That's how in the loop I was on that one.
Big hockey fan, ladies and gentlemen. And he
Yeah.
lives in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I will say, since you mentioned it, I have not really seriously followed any sports in quite a while. I used to be pretty into certain sports. Like I was pretty big into baseball and football and hockey at a certain point in my life, but I
yep.
really have not been super into anything sports related in quite a few years now. And it's not that I have anything against any of it. I just kind of gone in different directions in terms of
Yeah,
my hobbies and interests and stuff like that. It's just I have fond memories of going to games, following teams and all that, but it's just not been on my radar very much in recent years.
because I mean, your city too has such iconic teams
Oh yeah, yeah.
like Steelers,
Hmm.
Pirates, Penguins. I mean, it's like a plethora of
Hmm. City of
teams
Champions, baby.
worthy of watching. There you
Yeah.
go. I thought you were the city of bridges.
Well, we have a lot of names. Yeah.
Beautiful city. You should go
Mhm.
back and watch one of our episodes where we actually almost give you somewhat of a tour of the city.
Indeed, indeed.
Which episode I forget though.
We talked about it pretty extensively in both 13 and 14. So that's like
How do you even
the
remember
two
that?
Stoker Con episodes. Well, because I do all the production on everything.
Yeah,
So
I guess.
I end up watching all these episodes like 5 or 6 times,
There you
getting all the
go.
editing and all the visual effects and all that stuff done. So they get ingrained pretty good into my noggin.
Yeah. Hmm. So I digress. Sorry, I even brought that thing. I
No,
just had to
no,
do a
good times.
callback joke.
Yeah, good times. So in actuality, what I've been busy with lately is audiobook stuff, kind of wrapping up. I know I've been talking a lot about audiobooks over the past year or so, going all the way back to around this time last year when I was recording the Big Men and all that. Basically been like a nonstop whirlwind of activity for me getting into that beta program with Amazon with the virtual voice thing and doing the other 6 Nodwell's Timelines books last year, and then doing the audio book for 8, my latest release, over this past month or so. So by the time this episode is out, that should have been released for at least a little while. But there was actually a bit of a delay in doing that because I ran into a bit of a problem, which I wanted to mention briefly, just in case anybody came across it or experienced any issues as a result of it. So one of the things about being in a beta program is sometimes things happen that are beyond your control and unexpected. So at one point in time, Amazon made the somewhat questionable decision of automatically updating the virtual voice on one of my books, 309, and automatically published the update without me knowing about it. And I came to find, as soon as I found out that that had happened, that there were all sorts of technical problems with the audio. So that was a sort of like drop everything you're doing and work for 4 or 5 days straight to fix it kind of situation, which thankfully been finished. That's all said and done and wrapped up. But apologies to anyone who may have tried to read that book in that little window of time when things were messed up. I promise that was not my fault. I had nothing to do with it. And I tried to fix it as quickly as possible. The good news is that as a result of all that effort, the audiobook sounds better than ever. I'm actually really happy with the way the virtual voice sounds now. I think it's pretty close to what I would expect from a standard dry narration reading. Obviously, something like virtual voice is probably never going to come close to what you could get out of a dramatic reading from a actual person. But as far as just a straight dry read, I think that tech is actually getting pretty good. At least the quality of the results you can accomplish if you're willing to sit down and put the work in and tweak everything the way I do is pretty impressive. It's just a question of whether or not the author or the publisher is willing to put the time and effort in to get everything out of the system that it's capable of. And I think you can end up with some pretty amazing results. So I'm pretty excited about that. Was not super excited about the forced labor aspect of it, but the end result was good. So that was nice. The good news is with 8, all the new virtual voice stuff was already in place when I started working on that. So I was able to take advantage of all of that stuff right from the beginning on that book. But just to show you how quickly that tech changes. So in a previous episode, I talked about how I thought I was going to have a bit of a jump start working on that book because I had done the 4 story singles from it last year. The 4 stories that I released in advance of the book coming out, I had done as audiobooks as well, thinking, oh, I'll just be able to take all of the same tweaks and edits that I applied to those stories last year and apply them to the actual book, and that'll give me a nice little jump start. It'll make doing the new book easier. Not so much, because it turns out in the intervening months between when I did that and when I did the actual book, stuff changed. So the tweaks are slightly different now, the edits are slightly different now, and I had to redo everything basically from scratch. Again, cool, because things are improving and things are sounding better and there's more nuance and subtlety that I'm able to apply to the finished product. But it just goes to show how rapidly the tech is changing and evolving, right? That even in just a few months, I had to literally approach some of those stories that I had just done a few months prior slightly differently to account for the changes in the tech. That was kind of wild and interesting and time consuming, but along those lines, I did want to mention, which this is long gone by the time you all see this, but the launch of 8 was pretty successful. I was pretty excited and happy with how that turned out, especially given the sort of state of the industry lately. Sales have kind of been down across the industry as far as new books releases go. So I'm always amazed and impressed and kind of humbled by the fact that I sell any books. So to do as well as I did with that launch, I was pretty happy about. I had a couple nice little bonuses and perks associated with that. Like I got a nice book bub feature when that came out, and that helped kind of push me up the charts for the couple of weeks after the Kindle edition was released. So we'll see how things play out over the next few months, but I'm really, generally speaking, pretty happy about how that book's done coming out the gate. And I think it should have a pretty long tail on it in terms of trying to attract new readers and kind of bring them into my universe and stuff like that. So big thumbs up on that. And thanks to everybody who jumped in and did reviews and spread the word and all that sort of thing. Really appreciate it. You guys are the best. But having said all that, I have probably one more big announcement as far as major project for this year goes, but I'm probably going to save that for next episode because, we had the cover reveal for my new book last episode, which of course that book won't be coming out until next year. But there is something that I'm working on, which is actually kind of a pretty big deal. that I will probably talk about in the next episode, which will be the other big thing that happens between now and when that next new book is released. So I will leave you with that little tease for the moment, and you can join us next time
Wow.
to find out what that special secret project is. But that said, let's roll on into this month's featured post. And to change things up this time, Ron has actually selected the featured post and is about to tell you all about it.
Well, before I start, I just want to apologize in case I mispronounce any of the words that I'm about to say,
Nice.
including names. But I'm trying my best. So, on social media, you come across many different things, and we've talked about it in the past where I always enjoy seeing other people's artwork
Mm-hmm.
because, of course, I always wanted to be an artist, but I'm a failed artist because I'm no good at it. But there are lots and lots of good artists out there. And I wanted to shine some light on one that I've been sort of following lately. And her name is Eva Mout. And I'm hoping I said that correctly.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Eva, but I have no personal
Could be
knowledge. Yeah.
Eva
Yeah.
Mout. But she's of Ursus DarkArt. She's a Dutch artist. I've really enjoy her artwork. As I mentioned, I came across her on social media and was captivated by her work and started following her.
Mm-hmm.
She actually puts out quite a bit of work, and she does stuff where you actually see some of her work in progress,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of cool. It always kind of actually pisses me off when I just see people how easy they're like they seem to just like make lines, and I'm like these beautiful things show up. I'm like tongue out of my face, and I'm looking and I try to do a stick figure, and I'm like, well, it's like, oh, it's a splash here and a splash there, and look, it's a whole forest with elves, and I'm like,
Voila.
how does that even happen?
Nice.
I don't get it, but good on them. They're very lucky to have that gift. The post that I picked, we'll put up, is an illustration by her for a new book by Blake Edward Andrew called The Haunting of Anna Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another one in mind because there's plenty to pick from, but this was from a newer post and I just saw it and it actually kind of reminded me a bit about something from Cutter's Deep and it
Mm-hmm.
caught my attention right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it very sort of like a haunting thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it's a cool image for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I switched it up and chose that one. You should definitely check her and her art out. We have a link to her website as well as
Mm-hmm.
to her social media. You should definitely be checking her out. And kudos to her because she does a really cool job. It's always entertaining to see her stuff.
Indeed. Well, sadly, we're about to go into something that's way less entertaining, at least from our perspective, because we are about to get into our next writer's life topic, which is something we've touched on previously, at least briefly, but we kind of wanted to expand on this a little bit because it's something that comes up so frequently that we kind of felt like it needed its own little moment in the sun to be exposed and maybe burned with a magnifying glass. So we wanted to talk a little bit about book marketing spam. and the tricks and lies that are associated with this practice. Because as seasoned veteran authors who've been doing this for many years, one thing that we definitely come across and see quite a bit of, and sadly and unfortunately see more and more of the deeper we get into the profession and the more exposed we become to it, is this premise of people kind of going out of their way to solicit you for book marketing services. And there's just no end to it. There are so many different sort of traps that are out there to fall into for authors to be aware of, that I thought just spending a little time talking about that and kind of pulling the curtain back from it and letting people know that they're not alone if they're dealing with this issue is something that was worth doing. So I thought to kind of get things started, maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the things that we have experienced and had happen or have seen that were some of the real zingers, or maybe even some of the more common things that you see all the time, just to kind of let people know what exactly we're dealing with on a regular basis with regard to this stuff. So, would you like to share any of your personal favorites, or would you like me to kick that off? How do you want to do this?
Well, and it's just not the book sort of marketing scams, which of course there's plenty of. I think once you sort of get your name out there, it seems like you're like open game to like a plethora of different kind of scams.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. They're like weeds. They
Mm-hmm.
just pop up. It used to be all we would talk about was, oh, these vanity presses that for $10,000 will publish your book. And of course, back in the day, when there was only a handful of publishers, you're like, well, sounds good. I'll sell them out of the trunk of my car or whatever. But then you just ended up with boxes and boxes of your books sitting in your garage or in your basement kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it became kind of knowledge after time or known that don't pay to publish your book. But they've gotten much more sophisticated. I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
think of the word and was not quite popping in my head.
Insidious, yes,
Yes.
would be the
And
word that
there's
I
a good
might
word.
use. Yeah.
But there's all sorts of offshoots of it now. And
Mm-hmm.
one, which is, and I still don't quite understand it. I mean, I think, touched on it a bit just in our personal conversations. But on social media lately, I've had New York Times best-selling authors who started to follow me in droves.
Yeah, yeah.
So at first, the first one or two came in, I saw it. I didn't really think much of it. I was like, New York Times best-selling author. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, they could have spun that anyway. Maybe they're had one book and it got on the charts or whatever. So I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it and it seemed somewhat harmless. And so I said, okay, I'll be your friend or I'll follow you. And then shortly after, and it doesn't always happen, sometimes you just never hear from them, but other times it's like, bing, I get a DM.
Yeah, yeah.
How are you? Your profile and I'm like, what? You're like you're supposed to be something like New York Times multi-selling author. You got 12 books that have all hit number one, and what the hell do you want to talk to me for? So, and my suspicions were up too because I think this one in particular, it was the books were either action or mystery. Well, I don't even know if he's actually real, to be honest, or it was
Mm-hmm.
romance, and that's what triggered. I was like, well, you did read my profile. It's like I do mostly like horror, dark fantasy. What's your sudden interest in me? But I don't know quite what the game is, but
Hmm.
I know it's somewhat nefarious, I would imagine. Because I mean, when we talked
Yeah.
about it, it's probably because they want to get into your followers list.
Yeah, when this is where the platform that it occurs on kind of plays into it, right? Because like especially on Facebook, this is a little bit of a callback to our social media episode we did previously. One key difference between the way you do your Facebook stuff and the way I do it is that you actually use a real Facebook account as
Yeah,
your means for interacting with people. So you have actual friends who are sending you friend requests and you're connecting in that more direct way on
yeah,
Facebook with people. Whereas I use an author page, a page that's set up on top of my account that's kind of layered on top of it where people can just follow me or whatever if they want to get updates from me. And
yeah,
so what I think a lot of those scammers are targeting on Facebook specifically is people like you, where they want to gain access to that large group of people that you have in your friend network
yeah,
that are following you, that are like other authors and hardcore readers and stuff like that, because they would not normally be able to see or interact with those people unless they were actually friends with you on Facebook. And I think
yeah.
that's kind of what the angle is in that particular case. And I think that's
But
just
to
a
what end, though?
byproduct of how that works. Well, they want to market to them. They want to know who are these thousands of people that are friends with you on Facebook. They
Yeah,
see that as like a honeypot or it's like a cornucopia to them where they're like, oh, here are all these engaged people who cared enough to want to friend this person to
yeah,
follow their work. So that's like a big pool of names and contacts or whatever they can potentially sell or market to directly or whatever like angle they
yeah.
want to use that for. But I even see that myself on my Facebook author page. I get followed by tons of those marketing folks as well, right? Where, and sometimes I think literally, in a weird way, I sort of am flattered by it because I feel like a lot of them are just following so they can steal my marketing techniques, right? Because they look and see like, oh, this guy's got pretty snappy ads or whatever, or pretty snappy ad copy. Let me just borrow that for
Yeah.
whatever shady business I'm trying to do. But there's really not a lot I can do about right. 'Cause it's a public page. Anybody can follow it, anybody can look at it, and that's
Yeah.
just you attract people like that as much as you attract the people you're actually trying to reach. In my case, being potential readers. But it is really funny. It's especially funny on Facebook in particular because I don't do it so much anymore. But when I used to run ads on Facebook a lot, it would be like flies to honey. Whenever I'd run Facebook ads, you just get so many of those obvious marketing accounts and people trying to get a hook into something following you because they see you're running ads, right? And they figure,
Yeah.
oh, well, if you've got enough budget to run ads, then maybe I can get a piece of that.
Yeah. No, everyone wants like a piece of you.
Yeah.
That's what it is these days.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is, right? And that's why you see more and more of it. The more of an audience that you garner, and the more of a reputation that you have, and the more of a presence that you have in the industry, that just amps it up more and more. The difference between where I am with that stuff now versus where I was 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 6 years ago is night and day.
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago, I might have seen something like that once or twice a month. Now I see it many times a day. It's almost like whack-a-mole trying to
Yeah.
deal with it. Or you'll get cases where there's somebody obviously trying to leverage your good name for something nefarious. That's the most annoying one to me. Those are the ones that I try to ruthlessly stamp out as soon as I come across them. But I've literally had instances where people have taken my profile picture, set up a fake account with my name, and then tried to sell marketing services to people posing as me or pretending, one of the more recent ones that I had done to me was a couple of nefarious companies going out there and commenting, like quote posting some of my posts. On a lot of social media networks, you can quote somebody else's post and add your own text to it,
Yeah.
right? And what they would do is they would take my posts, quote them, and then write some text implying that I was somehow affiliated with them or was using their marketing services with the apparent goal of trying to convince other authors to use their services because I'm supposedly using them, right? So, needless to say, anytime I come across anything ultra sketchy like that, I'm trying to put the smackdown on that as quickly as possible. But there have even been times where sometimes people are really clever about it and they'll go to places that I don't tend to frequent. They'll take my stuff from one social media platform and then use it somewhere else where I don't have a presence. And then I find out about it after the fact from another author, a reader, or somebody like that who makes me aware of it.
Yeah.
That kind of crap, sadly and unfortunately, has been happening to me increasingly, especially over the past couple of years. So it's definitely become a pet peeve of mine. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was to just let people know, if you ever see anybody online that's apparently me, look into that. Don't just assume that that's me, because I've seen it many times now over the years where people try to pose as me in various places online. And what I always recommend to people is I have my name.com, michaelschotter.com. I have my link tree posted there, which has the links to all my official social media profiles and where I am and where I officially act on social media. So if you see an account, something like that, that's on a place that's not on that list, 99.9% chance that's not me. So, like you said, that's just one of the things. There's so many different angles and so many different things that people are trying to do. And like you said, it just gets to be more and more of an issue. The more popular you get, or the more, I don't know, pull you seem to have in the industry. I guess what it is it draws those kinds of people and those sorts of organizations towards you. And I guess, like I said before, you could maybe view that as a compliment. Maybe it's like an ego thing and saying, oh, I'm big enough now that people would bother to do that, but it doesn't make it any less of a pain in the butt to deal with.
Yeah. Well, they're just like bottom feeders.
Yeah. Especially back in the day. And what I mean by back in the day is like 5 years ago. A lot of the scammers were more obvious because you get the things with broken English and bad punctuation and stuff like that, cheesy logos, obviously unprofessional looking presentation. But especially now with the rise of AI, which, I use quotes on AI because anybody who knows me knows that my judgment of what the tech industry calls AI these days is pretty harsh. I think that's a pretty big misnomer, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just say AI. It's so much easier for the scammers now to come up with convincing text or convincing imagery or convincing stuff to present to you, where you might actually be fooled for a moment if you're not carefully studying and scrutinizing and looking into what you're being sent. And I really do think it's a shame now that even authors who are just getting started, maybe coming out the gate with their first book or their first release, are starting to get inundated with this stuff because it's becoming easier and easier for the scammers to put it out there and just set all these hooks through automation and just try to cast as many lines as they can and maybe hook somebody. So we've said it many times over the past few episodes, especially over the past year or so, but you really do have to watch yourself out there if you're out there in the writing and publishing world, because there's a lot of people out there trying to take advantage and take your money and do all sorts of bad, nasty, shady stuff.
But it's not all bad. I mean, I get plenty of women who send me notes saying how much they enjoy my profile and want to get to know me better. Martha's not too keen on it, but it's very flattering. But
Yeah, I'm
the
sure.
kind of odd thing though is that there must be a glitch in the system, because I know apparently some of them, they can't send me a friend request.
Hmm.
So they're like, I really enjoyed your profile, I like your posts and how you look, but I can't send you this for some reason. Can you please friend request me? That's very flattering.
Hmm.
Apparently, I'm like a sexy
Well,
idol
you
as
are a
well.
catch. I mean, let's be real. You definitely are a catch.
Yeah. So there's two things I don't understand. Is like, one, you know, this is what part of my profile is like really enticing to you that you want to get to know me better? And two, why can't you send me a friend request? And if you
Hmm.
can't send me one, what makes you think that I could send you one? So
Hmm.
I haven't really got to the bottom of that, but I can tell that's some kind of scam. So
Hmm.
what it's for, I have no idea.
A lot of times, what it is, especially with the DM scams, it's all
Yeah.
about establishing contact and establishing communication. They want to get you talking. They want to engage with you because they figure once they get you talking, it's going to be harder for you to shut them down or say no or whatever. They're looking for the person who wants to communicate with somebody about their work so desperately that they're willing to maybe fall for something as a result.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're really trying to do. They're trying to find a mark, basically.
Yeah. It's kind of odd. There are some people that have requested friend. I look at their stuff and it seems normal enough. And
Hmm.
yeah, okay, fine. And like literally within an hour or so, I get the, hi, how you doing? Love
Hmm.
to, you know, talk about writing. And it could be earnest. Maybe they're trying to build a network of friends or something. But I'm just like, most people who receive a DM right away are
Hmm.
suspicious. So you might
Yeah.
want to change if you actually are legit, might want to
Hmm.
change your way of being chatty, because I don't even respond anymore. I used to feel bad. Maybe
Hmm.
that Canadian side, it's like, don't be rude, just say hi back. And I did it in the early days, but now it's just as soon as I see, hi, how you doing? I'm like, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't respond. I don't do it. I just
Hmm.
leave them hanging.
So I've had a few over the years genuine interactions with people who've sent me proposals. And I think that's the difference. There's a big difference between receiving a proposal from somebody about something and receiving a phishing attempt.
Yeah.
Because a phishing attempt is exactly what you're talking about, right? It's, hey, how you doing? Let's chat. Do you have a few minutes to chat? And I'm sure other authors out there have seen and heard these things enough that these are all ringing bells for them, right? It's somebody who's literally phishing. They're trying to set a hook. They're trying to get you to talk to them and communicate with them so they can pitch you on something that's probably bogus. That's
Yeah.
all about taking your money. but you know it. And the thing is, if you've never received a real proposal, you may not recognize the difference. But if you have, then you will recognize the difference immediately. Because the way I always look at it, because I sent proposals to people about various things over the years, and the way I always look at it is you have one shot to get that person's attention and convince them that you're worth their time. And that might be the one message that you send to them or the one email that you send to them that's ever going to get their attention. And so you need to bring your A game. You need to say, hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm interested in you. This is what I want to talk to you about. This is why contact me if this seems interesting to you. And it needs to be like a thorough, fleshed out, legitimate thing. And the thing is, you recognize those sorts of things when you see them. And it always baffles me and it always amazes me how these scammers even bother to try to do the things they do because they're so inferior by comparison to a legitimate inquiry.
Yeah.
You know a legitimate inquiry when you see one, I feel like. Even in this day and age, I think there's still like a world of difference between those two things that makes them pretty easy to spot, which is why to me all the scamming stuff really just does come across as a massive nuisance and annoyance because there's no possible way I'm going to be fooled by any of that. It's just noise. It's just white noise.
Yeah. Well, I think too, if you're gonna do a proposal or something, proposing to somebody, you should have probably had some kind of interactions with them
Mm-hmm.
beforehand.
Sure.
If it's
Yeah.
like cool post or something, because generally it could be like a legit. But if I'm not friends with you already,
Mm-hmm.
or I've had no interaction with you, why would I want to do
Mm-hmm.
anything? You're nothing
Yeah.
really to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, it's the other thing about it that's so funny is how easy it would actually be to build a genuine relationship with somebody if you really wanted to put the time and effort into it.
yeah,
But I think the thing that's so insulting about the scamming stuff is how low effort it is. How obvious it is that the people who are doing this stuff have put zero or next to zero effort into their pitches or whatever. Because occasionally I will get one that has like a little bit more oomph behind it, a
yeah,
little bit more thought put into it. And I almost feel compelled to acknowledge those because I'm like, well, at least you tried a little. At least you gave it a shot. But at this point, having been down that path so many times with so many different entities over the years, even those don't really get on my radar at this point. It's kind of like the difference between a F and a D. You're
yeah.
still not making the grade, but I'll give you, you're not an F, you're maybe a D.
Mm. Well, reiterating sort of something that I'd said earlier, as well as what you just mentioned, which triggered my head, is how they are getting a bit more sophisticated because
Hmm.
some of these, especially the I'd like to get to know you things,
Hmm.
they'll like all of a
Yes.
sudden a pile of your stuff where that never happened before. And I'll look and I'll be like, oh, I got, when you look at the hardware, it was like 37. I'm like, oh, I just checked an hour ago. Who got, where'd I get 37 likes from? And then you look at it and it's that one person and
Right.
it's just like bang, 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 bang,
Yeah,
bang,
they'll
bang,
just
bang,
go
bang, bang.
down through
Oh,
your whole timeline, right?
yeah.
And just like everything. Yeah.
So you're kind of like, oh, well. But then you look, you go to their site because I don't do anything until I look at the site. And then you go see theirs and it's just a letdown.
Hmm.
Definitely not legit.
Yeah.
Very pretty pictures, but
Hmm.
generally not legit.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. When it, kind of, I feel like I don't want to overgeneralize or oversimplify it, but I feel like too, it really does speak to the problem that I'm finding with social media these days, which is that at a certain point, I feel like I reached a point of saturation with social media where I find that it's very difficult to break out of the bubble or the little niche you end up finding yourself in on a lot of social media platforms where it's like you get the same interactions over and over again, and it becomes increasingly hard to reach out to new people or get exposed to new people on social media. And I think it has a lot to do with the way the systems work and the way they're designed. They kind of are designed to create these little bubbles of interaction. And so to break out of them, sometimes the only thing you can really do is some form of advertising that exceeds that space. And the other thing that leads me to, though, is thinking about like how much of a investment is worthwhile in terms of maintaining all of that stuff. At what point do I have little to nothing left to gain by maintaining all of these different accounts on all of these different platforms and trying to cast all these different nets to potentially try to reach people and bring new readers in and that sort of thing. And I think that how I think that ties into all of this is it really becomes evident when you look at a lot of these marketing accounts and you see the fact that you have 10 times as many followers as the people who are trying to sell you marketing services have,
Yeah.
right? That one really cracks me up because it's like, wait a minute, you just tried to pitch me on the idea that you're going to market my stuff and I have 10 times as many followers as you do. How does that work? Right?
And you can't spell properly.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm
There's that
just
too.
because I just as soon as you were saying that, I just got something the other day where it was just like I'm like, why why would I use you? I don't think they were marketing. I think they were a publisher, and it was just brutal.
Hmm.
And I was just like, who wrote this? Do you not even
Yeah.
look at what your stuff is? But
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's when we're talking about vanity presses, there's other kind of vanity things that they work on too. And we've talked about this in the past, but I think it was just between you and I, was podcasts. Not ours, because
Mm.
ours is genuine and amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got
I know where you're
invited
going. Yeah.
to be interviewed on this podcast, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'll think about it. And I kind of looked, and then it was like, yes, and only for a small fee of like it was $50 or
Hmm.
75 or 25. And then and just to cover because I have such reach
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's worth it. And I was just like that
Yeah.
I'd never pay to be on anything. And then I went to look at his site to see, and it was literally the worst interview. And the thing was, he had crap loads
Hmm.
of interviews. Like
Hmm.
he had a big library of them. And I was thinking, oh, so I listened to them, and there was no one I really recognized. And then when I was listening to them, I got the basic idea. A lot of these were like first time authors. A lot of them were older men
Hmm.
and women too. And I was like, this guy's just saying, oh, I'm going to give you all this exposure.
Hmm.
And they bought into it. And, you know, $50 may not seem like a lot with
Right. But
other
if you do
people
that to
marketing,
500 people, right?
but when you add it up,
Yeah.
I was less like, wow, what a scam. But I was just listening to him. He was beyond pathetic.
Hmm.
I was like, it was just, anyways. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it just, once again, you got to be careful. Everyone's out there making a buck. But he found his niche on how to scam people.
Hmm.
People want to get their name and their work out there. So they go, $50. It's not like I'm buying a $500 ad somewhere.
Right. Well, and that's what it is too with a lot of those things, right? Is it's all about the nickel and diming, or at least in the beginning. It's all about just trying to get you to, oh, for just $10, you can try this or do this or that or whatever. And, I've certainly dabbled with some of those things over the years, just as experiments. And I'm not saying that all of those marketing services are necessarily all bad. There's certainly been a few that I've tinkered with that I got some results from that were acceptable for the investment that I put into them. But I think where it gets sketchy is when you start getting up into the hundreds or beyond or into the thousands or whatever. And you start thinking like, what is the actual probability of this thing being able to return on this investment? And I think there's very few entities out there that can actually make good on any of those promises beyond a certain threshold. And so that kind of does lead me into where I wanted to sort of steer this eventually, and kind of in the interest of not just having this whole conversation be a total downer. I would kind of like to end on a high note, if possible, and maybe talk a little bit about some tips or some advice or whatever that we could give to people who might be confronting these sorts of things or dealing with these sorts of things, and maybe thinking about like, well, what can I actually do if not giving into all these scam hooks that are being dangled in front of me constantly. So I thought I would share a couple things, and if you want to add anything in, maybe this would be a good way to wrap this up. But
But I got six more scams I still want to talk about.
you got more scams you want to talk about?
I could.
Okay.
We could do it in the next episode. I'm not going to bother. Needless to say, there's lots of them out there.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? As you just illustrated, we could go on for another hour just talking about all the different flavors and varieties of scams that are out there. But I think we've kind of made our point. People probably get it at this point.
If it
So,
sounds too good to be true,
yeah, it almost
it's
certainly
probably not
is.
true.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just start out with a couple of basic things. So, I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard about book marketing, which I think is very true, and I would definitely happily reiterate it and advocate it to anyone, is don't worry too much about marketing your first book, because the purpose of your first book is really to establish yourself as a writer. The expectation with your first book should never be, I'm going to sell a bunch of these. The expectation with your first book should be, I want to get this into the hands of as many people as possible to gain a readership, to get people interested in me and my work and my style of writing and all that sort of thing. So any marketing that you do for your first book, in my opinion, should be toward that end. And I think things that work really well for that sort of thing are giveaways, things like Goodreads giveaways. If you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can do free book giveaways once per enrollment period that don't really cost you anything. All you have to do is promote them. And if you're just starting out, you can do that for free on social media. But like I said, giveaways, low price promotions. If you're on Kindle Unlimited, again, you can do Kindle Countdown sales, make your book 99 cents for a week, and just try to get as many people as possible to read your book and get it into as many people's hands as possible, with the understanding being that that's your goal, is to just establish yourself, to get yourself out there, to get yourself known, and to get people to give you legitimate, real, tangible feedback on your work. Because this is the other thing. one of the biggest mistakes you can make as an author is to go hard on advertising or promotion on work that is not worthy of that. The worst thing you can do as an author is heavily promote a book that hasn't proven to be enjoyable and liked by a wide range of people. And this is just real talk, right? Like, if you want to know your worth as an author, that's going to come from people telling you what they think of your work. That's going to come from reviews and word of mouth and people talking about what you've done. And that's going to tell you what books you should put your marketing muscle behind and your marketing dollars behind. Because regardless of what you may want or what you may think is the case, nothing substitutes for the feedback you get from actual readers. And the only way to get that feedback in the beginning is, like I say, to just aggressively put your book out there and make the barrier to entry into your work as low as possible for as many readers as possible. And unfortunately, the only real way to do that in the beginning is probably going to be to give it away or at the lowest possible cost. So that would be my first big recommendation as far as that sort of thing goes. You have any pro tips you'd like to share with folks about that sort of thing from your experience?
No,
Nice. Nice.
no one's going to get any of my secrets.
Yeah, nice.
Actually, I don't even have any secrets. I started writing again after that long hiatus, and I just threw my book out there and just used social media to let people know it was there. I guess I was lucky. It sort of picked up, people read it, and then word of mouth. Because you're never going to get anything better than word of mouth. It's like you
Yeah.
said, it's reviews. Because
Yeah.
I could tell you it's the most fantastic book that ever was written.
Mhm.
But if your buddy Bob came over and said, "Oh, I just read this book and it was like amazing," you could have seen 20 of my posts.
Mhm.
Never even heard of my book, but your buddy Bob told you, and you'd probably check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a perfect segue into what was going to be my other piece of advice, which was, as you get further along in the profession, as you get more things out there and more work published, what your goal should be as an author is to back off on self-promotion as much as possible, to get to a point where your work speaks for itself and you get other people who have read and experienced and enjoyed your work to speak on its behalf for you, because that's what it really takes. Because as Ron said, you can talk till you're blue in the face about how great your book is, and nobody really cares. The only reason you should actually be out there as an author promoting your work is simply to make people aware of it. Now, obviously, if you can use people's reviews or their assessments of your work as part of that process, that's great. If you can do posts about people reviewing your work or people saying nice things about your work or whatever, that's obviously a great way to do it. But at the end of the day, it simply is about awareness. You're just trying to make people aware that your work even exists, and then ideally leave it up to the people who experience your work to be the ones to carry the torch and be the mavens of it or the advocates of it. Because again, I think it bears repeating one more time. It doesn't matter what you as the author think of your work. It matters what people who've read and experienced it think of it. Those are the people who are going to make or break you at the end of the day. So that's pretty much, I think, more than enough for now on that subject. This is always a dangerous one to talk about because like we said before, we could very easily go down the rabbit hole on this topic because there's so many different sketchy, shady things swirling around out there, and they're always changing. So don't be surprised if we end up talking about this again in the future at some point. But I feel like this is a nice little nutshell kind of way to encapsulate some of the greatest hits of scammer time.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, it's just be aware, just like in real life, be aware of your surroundings and don't be desperate.
Yeah.
Take a step back and think about it. Am I doing this or interested in this because I'm desperate to get my product out, whatever it is, doesn't have to be a book?
Mhm.
Then there's probably a reason behind that. So give it some thought. Take the time to check out the person who's coming to you because it could be legit.
Mhm.
Reach out
Yeah, due
to
diligence
someone.
is very important. And another callback to our previous episode about social media, which if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out. You made a very good point in that episode, which was about being patient and not being in a hurry to see results about things. And that's a really big, I think, contributing factor to what leads people to falling for scams in a lot of cases is that impatience that I need to see an immediate result. So I'm just going to throw money at the problem. And that's
Yeah.
definitely a thing to watch out for.
It's tough. I mean, especially for younger generation or younger writers coming up because, you know, with the phones and all the information at their finger, it's like now, 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 now. I want it
Mhm.
now. I don't wait in line at McDonald's anymore. I go up to one of those kiosks, press my things, and then just wait for
Mhm.
them to call me, because
Yeah. Or you order on your phone before you even get there,
yeah,
right? And they're
yeah.
just handing you a bag or whatever. Yeah.
I know we were heading to Montreal and our son was with us because we were visiting family. And we went into the McDonald's that's really close by because after about 2 hours driving, we thought, well, let's stop there, grab something to eat, and then we'll go on. And there's that one spot that's just really handy. So we go there. So we were gonna walk up, and it was like almost horrified that we were gonna
Hmm.
do there. I'm gonna just order it. And I think he did actually do it on his phone. Even us going to the kiosk was too slow for him.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky. You write a book and you've read stuff, so you think, well, I'm going to write this book. It's going to be a bestseller. The money's going to come flowing in. You got to be patient. And if this is your dream, stick with it. But if you jump into the deep end, you just might not float.
Yeah. Yeah. Caution is the byword of success.
Exactly.
I stole that from a video game, but nobody needs to know that.
There you go.
Anyway, I think that is an excellent way for us to wrap things up for this episode. Hopefully, you all have enjoyed it. Any final thoughts you have before we get on out of here?
Yeah, just one quick one. I just wanted to mention a book that I just finished,
Mhm.
Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell.
Nice.
It was a creepy read. And if you like creepy reads, it might be one to check out. I remember when I was reading it, I kept thinking that I heard things happening or moving around downstairs while I was in bed reading it, which is always kind
Nice.
of a good sign.
Yeah,
So
that's always a good one when the book gets inside your head a little bit. That's a that's a good sign.
it was kind of unsettling in that way. But yeah, it was a fun read. So haven't heard of it. Check it out. Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell.
Nice. Well, we will have an off the clock for you folks this month, so stay tuned and look forward to that. And we will see you next time.
Oh, and when I send you guys a great advertising opportunity, click on it and agree and just send me your money directly to my PayPal account. It's
Yeah,
completely
he needs
legit.
dog food and dog shots and tarps and all sorts of things.
Exactly. So all my advertising scams and schemes, I mean schemes, not scams, sorry. Completely legit. You're
I'm
gonna sell a
sold.
million books using my plan. Just send $75 to my PayPal. You'll put that in the links, right?
Sure, Ron.
Okay. Till then, keep the money flowing and the snow off your deck. Go Canada. 3-2. Ha!
Congratulations, you just survived the post-mortem report. For more information about the show, the hosts, or the things they talked about, visit our official website at postmortemreport.com. And always remember, good posts never die.